Welcome to the A.T.TIPSCAST, exploring and investigating the implementation of assistive technology in public schools. I'm your host, Chris Bouguet. This is episode number 51, recorded on March 11th, 2010. Comic strips are fun. Which of us hasn't shuffled through the newspaper, skipping all the actual news to find the comics section? They are an interesting form of communication because they rely on visual imagery to make a point or tell a story. Whether the point is made within the confines of a single frame, or whether the images are spread out over a series of frames, every comic uses imagery. Sometimes the imagery alone is enough to convey the intended message, and sometimes some text is necessary to accompany the images to drive the point home. The use of images to convey meaning makes comics a very useful strategy when it comes to teaching pragmatics and social skills. After all, comics include pictures, and pictures are more universally understood than the written word. Students are creating comic strips all the time, even though we don't always tend to think of them as comics. For instance, when students draw a picture of a scene from a story, they're creating a comic. When students sketch a fact based on something they've read in a textbook, they're creating a comic. But this episode is not about using comics for education in general, but about using comics to help meet the needs of students who demonstrate difficulties with pragmatic language. And one of the most fun comic generators available is A.T.TIP number 83, Bitstrips.com. Students who have difficulty with pragmatics demonstrate difficulty identifying and/or using the rules involved regarding social language. According to the American Speech Language Hearing Association, pragmatics involves three major communication skills: using language appropriately for different purposes, including greetings, requesting, and informing; changing language according to the situation or needs of the listener; and following conversation and storytelling rules, such as taking turns or staying on topic. Comics can help students visually plot, plan, and practice these often subtle pragmatic skills. Although Bitstrips.com offers a level of service that costs some money, including an educator version, it also maintains a free service that can be used by anyone, including educators. I'll let you check out the differences in service plans for yourself, but just let me say that I've used the free version on a number of occasions, more of that to come later, and it works well. The free version of Bitstrips.com allows users to create characters and comics, placing them in a variety of background settings with a sundry array of objects that can be used as props. Even more impressive is the number of emotions a character can employ using both facial expressions and body positions. Users can create a wide variety of characters and use the controls to make extremely precise facial expressions. Obviously, these tools are better suited for a video demonstration rather than audio, but I think the tools are pretty intuitive, so I think you'll be able to master them pretty quickly without much direction from me. Having said that, I've posted some video tutorials over at A.T.TIPSCAST.wordpress.com. The one thing that I'd caution you about the free version is that users can browse what other users have created, which means that there might be some content there that you'd rather not deal with. Of course, stumbling across something inappropriate might provide the perfect moment to teach why a comic is inappropriate, which might help students learn more about pragmatic language. So, besides the chance of stumbling across something less than appropriate, how can a comic creator like Bitstrips.com be used to help teach pragmatic language? Well, let's have a look. Number 1. Once upon a time, I worked with an autism teacher to film a series of right way, wrong way video clips with students. We filmed students in different situations and asked them to act out the wrong way and the right way to conduct themselves. The students had a blast acting, and we had a blast filming. Once we put the videos together, we made thumbs up signs and thumbs down signs. We watched the videos, and students voted on the scenes, deciding if the actions were appropriate or not. So much fun. Comics can be used in much the same way, where students can simply identify which actions are appropriate, which are inappropriate, and how they change the inappropriate messages into appropriate ones. Picture this. An educator, or a student, creates a comic where one character is walking down a hallway and passes someone who has dropped a bunch of books. The next 3 frames could present choices that character could make, including one where the character gets angry and says,
"You made a mess. Clean it up."
One where the character laughs at the person and says,
"Ha ha 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 ha, you're so clumsy. Klutzy, klutzy, klutzy."
And one where the character stops to offer help, saying,
"Yikes, I hate when that happens. Here, let me help you."
Students can use the comics to make selections about which would be the best approach for the character to make. To make it even more personal and fun, students can create a virtual version of themselves to be placed in different social situations. Just think how fun it would be for students to make cartoons of themselves. Number 2. Using the facial expression tools, students can create different emotions for characters or for the comic version of themselves. When a student is having trouble expressing himself verbally, the student could be invited to create a comic to explain what they are feeling. These pictures could also be printed and used as classroom visuals to be used by the students as an appropriate way of expressing emotions. That is, rather than saying something inappropriate like,
"You're a stupid head,"
the student could pick up the "I'm angry" visual and show it to the person. Number 3. Over time, students could keep a journal of comics to keep and review different social situations. It is entirely possible for a student to practice and use appropriate language in a scenario this week, but then a few months down the line be presented with a similar scenario and not be sure how to react. Similar to a social situation story, students could read their own graphic journal or their own comic book to review and practice appropriate language in a variety of situations. Number 4. The main character in the television show House features a doctor, Gregory House, who has some difficulty with pragmatic language. I think one of the reasons the show is so popular and one of the reasons the character is so popular is because he gets to say whatever he wants, and we, as the audience, envy him for it. Which of us can't think of a time where we bit our tongues and said the complete opposite of what we really wanted to say? With comics, the virtual version of the student can make choices about how to act that the real-life student cannot act out in a real-life situation. Students can say and make less than appropriate comments and actions in a comic to demonstrate the fact that they shouldn't act that way in real life. The Simpsons, another show on Fox, provides another great example of this. Characters can fall off cliffs, bring racehorses home, eat enormous portions, and never feel the consequences of their actions. Woohoo! Because The Simpsons is a cartoon, the creators are not limited to physical reality. A car can drive backward and forward in rapid succession without grinding gears. An elephant can be squeezed into a house. A space shuttle can land with an inanimate carbon rod holding the door shut. Pigs can walk on ceilings, and so on. When students are creating a comic, they aren't limited to physical reality either, and therefore, comics are a perfect venue for expressing what otherwise couldn't or shouldn't be expressed verbally. Of course, there are many other fun uses for comics in education, including teachers using them to give instructions, students using them as a way to demonstrate what they've learned, and using them as group projects where students work together to build a story. But for students with pragmatic difficulties, comics aren't just fun, they're practical. So, comics are fun and practical, eh? Yes, that is why we use Bitstrips in the book, The Practical and Fun Guide to Assistive Technology in Public Schools. We created a number of standalone comics that you'll find laced throughout the book, all of which we think help to illustrate the points we are trying to make. Also, using bitstrips.com, we've created 4 bookmarks featuring characters from the comic strips in the book. You can find these bookmarks over at the blog A.T.TIPSCAST.wordpress.com and the Facebook fan page for the book, which is bit.ly/atbookfb. That again is bit.ly/atbookfb. If you're a blogger or a podcaster, please feel free to drop these in your feed and share them or do whatever you want with them. Even if you don't play in that world, feel free to email the bookmarks to other educators, post them to forums or discussion boards, or even print them out and give them to people in schools. Heck, feel free to print out a set and drop them in the teacher's lounge. If you're an AT team of 1, or you're the only person working with assistive technology or doing assistive technology as your job title in your school district, and you're looking to build a team, here's your opportunity. Print the bookmarks and secretly give one to your administrator each week for the next 4 weeks. Don't even tell them that it's from you. Just play dumb, and when they ask you where they're getting the bookmarks from, you say, "Who? What? Me? I don't know. I don't know who put that excellent resource in your mailbox. Looks pretty interesting, though. Maybe we should pick up a copy." Speaking of the book, it's now available to pre-order. Go to isti.org/chew-at. That's ISTE.org/chew-at to order your copy now. Also, Sally and I recorded an audio version of Chapter 6, Choosing Assistive Technology Teammates, and as you may have heard, I dropped it here in the A.T.TIPSCAST feed, so you could listen to it. We had a lot of fun putting it together. We've been getting some really good responses so far. You can find a PDF version of the chapter, the audio version of the chapter, and a table of contents for the entire book, all over at the website isti.org/chew-at. Finally, I should let you know that I wrote an article about alternative professional development that you can read over at adaptivelearning.com and pediastaff.com. The 2 organizations aren't affiliated, but they were both interested in the content, so both organizations posted the article. If you get a chance, check them out. I'll have links to everything over at AT.TIPSCAST.wordpress.com. Now, before I dive back into making more Bitstrip comics, let me just end by saying, may all your interventions be inclusive, may all your strategies be supportive, and may all your comics be pragmatic.